Hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. This is Hasper TV, and today I've got Craig with me. Craig's actually a Bournemouth fan. Surprisingly, I actually managed to find a Bournemouth fan to talk about the game on Saturday, just by chance. So, Craig, I don't know if you watched the Spurs game yesterday, but how are you feeling in general towards the game on Saturday? As
Um,
how Bournemouth fans feeling? Let's start with that first.
to be honest, Spurs are one of the top six.
Mm.
So personally, um, these games are bonus games to us. I know the form has been a little bit patchy recently. I know, of course, what happened yesterday. Unfortunately, I didn't see the game, and
Mm.
what should have been a last-minute winner. But to be honest, we see it as a bonus game against the top six so far. We've lost all three, and with a margin of 16 goals against and
Oh,
zero
wow.
for.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we got beat by Liverpool. Um, of course, that 9-0 defeat. I was there.
Yeah.
Um, very, very painful. And I'm sure we'll come on to Scott Parker in a moment.
Yeah.
Of course, Arsenal, your favourites.
Yeah.
We got beat by them 3-0.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, the first 10 minutes of that game killed us. We couldn't really do much about the Saliba goal
Mm.
in the second half, but yeah, that was a 3-0 defeat. And against Man City, we got beat 4-0, albeit that was probably the best out of the three performances against the top six we played so
Mm.
far. So, like I say, it's a bonus game from where we're sat, but we have beaten Spurs before, and
Mm.
we've got to have that little bit of
Yeah.
hope that we can get something.
So, as in, would you say you look at these games and think, oh, it's like a draw is like a good result, even though it's at home?
Yeah, I
Because
would say
obviously,
so.
because I'd see, when I was growing up, Spurs were sort of like a team who were like in the sort of stages Bournemouth are, I guess I'd say, in
Mhm.
the 90s. Before Martin Jol sort of took us back into Europe. But that was completely like not out of the blue, but it kind of happened
Yeah.
just not naturally because we were sort of fighting relegation before Santini took charge, and then that sort of happened. But I just want to know what the minds of fans like you who support teams like that. Just as how do you guys view seasons in terms of like success?
I would say if we finish 17th this year,
Mm,
um, that would be a success for us.
mm,
And what you got to keep in mind is the size of the club. Well, let's say from the start of the season,
mm,
17th would have been claimed a success. Um, the size of the club. Of course, after that Liverpool defeat, it was very much doom and gloom. I thought we
mm,
had no chance whatsoever. The difference between me and Scott Parker saying it, though, is of course he's the manager, he's in charge of a young squad,
mm.
whereas I'm just a average Joe fan, really. And
Yeah, yeah.
to be fair, I feared the worst after that game, but we picked
Mm,
up. So I think 17th is still a successful season. It is our first season back in the Premier League.
mm,
Of course, there is the takeover that is in the midst of happening. A gentleman called Bill Foley is taking over at the club, and he has got his own plans. And he was actually present for the Leicester win. Um,
mm,
a few weeks back. And to be perfectly honest, he might not see it that way. He might see, right, okay, let's invest in January,
mm.
add to this already talented but young squad, maybe an experienced squad. Adam Smith is the oldest player. He's the
I was
only
going to ask you
player,
about him because ex Tottenham as well, actually.
of
So,
course, yeah.
yeah.
He is he's the most experienced player in our lineup.
Mm,
He's the only player that is still present on the pitch from that team. Of course, we've still got Tommy Elphick at the club and Simon Francis, who were also involved in those glory years
Was it under
previously.
Eddie Howe? Were we
It
talking about
was,
under Eddie
yeah.
Howe? Yeah.
But I think, with a couple of additions and sensible additions, I think we should be okay.
Mm.
But it's where we go from here. Bill Foley has got his own plans. He's already earmarked that the training ground needs to be completed. I believe there's one pitch that's been completed. I've been down there. When I went down there, and that was back in August, to be honest, not much had looked like it had been
All
moved
right.
forwards.
All
But
right.
supposedly there is something going on a little bit further away from the fences that fans
Mm.
can't see. But also the stadium, which is a big thing. Of course, it's probably one of the smallest stadiums that's ever been in the Premier League. We were here 5 years beforehand, and I think that was what Eddie wanted, was that being built as part of his legacy. Maxim Deming, who is the current owner but soon to be previous owner, invested more in the squad. He hasn't so much done that this time, but he has spent a significant amount of money to actually get this club where it is at the moment. So at this point in time, 17th would be a successful season, but let's
Mm.
see what happens once Bill Foley takes hold of those reins. Um, you know, I don't think he will be too particularly happy with spending a season in the Championship. He'll expect to return at the first time of asking if that
Mm.
happens, but I don't think he'll want to get to that point anyway.
So, with Bournemouth, just in general, I thought you asked about Adam Smith, because Adam Smith is ex-Tottenham,
Yeah.
and uh, as you know, Spurs have a really big right wing back problem. I'm not saying we're going to buy him,
Yes.
by the way. So, would you say, because obviously he only played, I think, 1 or 2 appearances in the Spurs shirt, but has he been a successful player at Bournemouth? Would you say,
Oh,
as for his
crikey.
career? Yeah, like,
Yeah,
is
he's
he like
been
a solid
outstanding.
right back? Solid, yeah.
Well, he's part of that promotion side that
Mm.
got us here in the first place. Um, he is very assured at the back. He was pretty much ever present in the squad under Eddie
Mm.
Howe in the Premier League during the last 5 years. Well, the 5 years that we spent in this division previously, and he's shining again. He can. Although we predominantly play him at right back, we've signed Ryan Frederick, so we've been playing him at
He's
left
another
back.
ex-Tottenham, you know. Another
Yes, yeah.
ex-Tottenham.
He's and
Was that from Newcastle, wasn't it? I think. Or
no,
am I
that was
wrong?
from West
West
Ham.
Ham. Oh, West
Yeah,
Ham. I
West
remember he
Ham.
was of the two. Yeah, yeah.
He signed for the club because he played with Scott Parker at Fulham.
Oh, yeah, because I'm thinking of Fulham. Yeah,
Yeah,
not Newcastle. Yeah.
yeah,
Sorry, because some of these players, they go around to so many different clubs, you sort of lose track.
you do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can understand.
Yeah. And because I like to sort of keep tabs on some ex-Spurs players, because
Mhm.
as you know, Marcus Edwards went to Sporting Lisbon and destroyed us, scored a goal last night against us.
Ye-
So, I mean,
Yeah,
Twitter was kind of going ballistic with that sort of thing. But so Ryan Fredericks, is he done all right as well, or because we didn't see much of him at Tottenham?
yeah. To be honest, I wasn't really excited when he signed because I
Mm.
thought, well, he's really going to be backup. What he's actually done is he's forced himself into the first team. He's
Mm.
done well in the first team, and he's surprised a lot of people, I think. Um, but yeah, I think Zamora is is my first choice left back,
Mm.
and right back Adam Smith. But what Gary O'Neill has done is he's moved Adam Smith to the left, brought in Fredericks, I should say, um, and put Zamora on the bench. I think Zamora might need a little bit more time at this level, just to get into it. He was the one player out of Jaden Anthony and Jordan Zamora. I thought, well, Jordan Zamora is going to take the Premier League by storm, and Jaden
Mm.
Anthony is the one that probably
Oh, he's
need a
done
little
it.
bit of time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it feels like it's a little bit the other way round. that Jaden Anthony has really stood up to the plate, and Jordan Zamora has just taken a little bit time to get going, but he'll get there. And I will stand by my early prediction that he is going to be a top 6 player in the end of the day.
Oh,
You
right.
know,
So
he will get there.
because with Fredericks, from what I remember him at Tottenham, he was very fast, but he
Yeah,
didn't really play enough to get it. For us to get sort of an impression on what he was like. Because as you know, sometimes I don't know about Tottenham, but it's like a revolving door for some positions for players. Like they just buy a
yeah.
player for like a couple of years, fans get on his back, or like, or something happens and they sell
Mhm.
him, and then they bring another one. Or in terms of like Adam Smith and Fredericks, especially because they were youngsters, they came through and they played like a few appearances. My dad actually quite liked Fredericks, so he
Yeah.
was quite sad that we sold him because he had a lot of pace. And then obviously he's moved on to many other clubs after that, like West Ham. I thought he was quite decent at West Ham actually, but yeah.
I think he's
Um,
solid. I think you
mm,
could say he's a solid player. He's not one that will set the world alight, put nicely, but
mm,
he's a solid player. He's a good right back, and I'm pleased that he's at the club. Um, he is fast. He's probably dropped a little bit of pace as
mm.
he's got older. Um, if there's one fault that I could give to him, sometimes he presses up too far high up the pitch
Too
and
high.
doesn't come
Okay.
back. But he's got himself into some good positions. Like against Fulham, he really should have won a penalty for us, because he was running and it wasn't through on goal. It wasn't directly in the centre of goal, but there was a chance for him to cut across it to Solanke,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he was tugged back by Tim Ream. And that's what he does bring, because he has got that pace. Like I say, he's not as fast as what I remember him as well. I've seen him a couple of times. I wasn't overly excited about him signing, but he's shown why he's here, and to be honest, that's quite a good bit of business, really, by Scott Parker.
Mm. I was actually going to go on to Scott Parker next. So, there are some
Mhm.
Spurs fans watching this. So, and I know in the fan base, Scott Parker not has been earmarked as a future Spurs manager, but I've seen it on a lot on Twitter, and there's a lot of talk when I've met people of saying, "Oh,
Mhm.
Parker, because he was good at Fulham, because he's ex Spurs, he looks like a manager." So, what are your honest thoughts of him at Bournemouth? And to me, I don't have any like emotional attachment to Scott Parker. He was a good
Yeah,
play for us with Modric, but like I don't know much about him, so I'm not the kind of person to be like, oh, he should be our next manager.
I'm going to be brutally honest,
You can
and
just say it's fine.
to be fair, when he joined the club, we went on this magnificent run. We got 37 points from the first 15 games in the
Oh wow.
championship. And to be honest, I kept thinking we're going to get the record number of points, which is held by Reading, is 106. I thought we was going to beat that, because the way we were playing, it was just so fluid. The youngsters that had come in, of course, Zamora, Anthony. We also had a player called Zeno Ibsen Rossi, who I really rated, and I don't know why we sold. Gavin Kilkenny, all these players that had come in from nowhere and actually took the championship by storm. When we were in the middle of an injury crisis, we'd managed to accrue 37 points from first 15 games. I think it all changed. Um, we've got a terrible record against Preston North End. I don't know if you know, but we
I
just
don't know.
we can't beat them for love nor money. As well as we
Oh,
can play against them, we can't beat them because
Preston. Okay.
they're just Preston. And we
Okay.
got beat by them. Then
Yeah.
we had a draw against Millwall, and that coincided with Gary Cahill getting injured. Never really come back from that, and that's where it all went a little bit pear-shaped. And at the end of the season, it's probably unfair to say we limped over the line. We was limping towards the line, and then we found a second wind. And that second win's come in the game against Swansea. I don't know if you know what happened, but we were 3-0 down against Swansea, and it was doom, it was gloom, it was like, we're
Is
going to
that when you
blow
came
this.
back?
Yeah,
Came back. Yeah, yeah.
3-3.
Yeah,
And
I remember
then
that.
we
Yeah.
went to Blackburn, we beat
Mm.
them, and then we set up this game against Nottingham Forest, which was actually previously cancelled because of Storm Eunice.
Oh, right. Oh,
And
okay.
they turned around to us and said, because you got loads of injuries, it was just sour grapes. So we've come to this game, and they're right up for it. They think that they're going to win promotion over us, and we played them off the park. And that was the second win that we had. We won the last game of the season against Millwall. Millwall was still fighting to get in those playoff places. So there is that. They are capable of doing that. And Scott Parker, his halftime team talk, which I would suggest anybody watches, was quite inspirational. I just don't know what happened in the middle of the season. We didn't beat Peterborough either of the home or away game last season. Against Reading at home, we should have been about 5-6-0 up at half time. We'd only managed to score one goal. They equalised quite early on, and then it was just backs against the wall. And to be fair, that game at the end, I was quite relieved to come out of that with a point. Got beat by Derby. There's all these games that Scott Parker, his tactically he messed up. But I think, I know you mentioned there that, he was successful at Fulham. I don't think he was. I think, he had a hell of a lot of money thrown at him at Fulham. He spent a lot of that money, got them up, and then got them relegated.
Yeah.
And to be honest,
Yeah.
he already inherited a very, very good squad here. Once those players come back, that squad was a squad that should have been able to get, any manager would have been able to get out of the Championship. When he got into the Premier League, he spent a bit, bought in Senesi, bought in Fredericks, bought in Neto,
Yeah,
Tavernier.
Neto, yeah,
Neto,
yeah.
Neto, unfortunately, is out long term now,
Really,
which
he's
is
a
a bit
good
of a shame.
player. He's a very
He's
good
an
player.
outstanding goalkeeper.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
now he's injured, I'm a little bit worried, because if anything happens to Mark Travers, I
Are you in
just,
trouble?
yeah. Mark Travers, you can probably remember, started in that 1-0 win against Spurs.
Yes,
And
I know, because
I
we were like,
personally thought that, he was going to be our number one,
after
because
that game.
he was outstanding. It was probably one of the best goalkeeping performances I've ever seen at Dean Court.
Shall I take something quite funny? So, as Spurs fans, we have this thing where when a keeper like that plays in goal, or like an ex-Spurs keeper, or like someone who's like, do you know Tim Krul? So whenever he
Yes.
used to play against us, we'd be like, oh, he'll have like a worldy game. So because it was a keeper we never heard of, we were just like, he's gonna have a worldy game. I don't know
Yeah.
why, but we always have this feeling, and it's just like, and then yeah, that's what happened, I guess.
Yeah,
You guys beat us.
he was
Yeah.
outstanding. But Scott Parker brought in some decent players. He wanted more money. He made that quite clear before the season started. The centre of defence was a concern because Senesi hadn't signed by the Aston Villa game. And we beat Villa. And all right, yeah, we know what Villa are like now. It's really
But
shown.
before they were like really highly rated in the start of the season, though.
They were, yeah. I
Yeah.
personally thought that they would be mid-table.
Me too. Me too.
And, to be honest, I think they've shown in that last game that they can be. They've just not been playing for Steven Gerrard. And then, of course, these 3 games against the big 6 come along. And it was just the way it was all handled against Arsenal. I can forgive the Man City game because I think
Man City.
it's Man City. We did
Yeah.
well. We kept Erling Haaland quiet. You know, he
Mm.
didn't score against us. That's something we can share with Liverpool. But
Yeah.
you know, it was just the way we played against Arsenal, the setup, the start. We gave them so too much room, too much respect, and we paid for that. We went 2-0 down. You know, in the first 10 minutes. And then Saliba scored a third. And then, well, the Liverpool game, which was really Parker's undoing. It wasn't so much the result. I would say it was the performance. First 6 minutes, we were again 2-0 down. Um, it was quite clear throughout that game we were on for a bit of a battering, put
Mm.
nicely. Um, we just sat off them. Liverpool, I think, on that day would have beaten anybody, but still, we made it so easy for them. Um, you know, I question whether or not the local park team would have put up more of a fight,
Oh
and that's
wow, it was that
disappointing.
bad.
It
I
was
didn't see it, so it was that bad.
it was disappointing. It was just the
Mm.
way it was all managed, all set up, and the how the management side the team went about that game. And then to come out and say we're going to have many more days like that,
Yeah, I
um,
remember reading that comment actually at the
it's
time because it was
ridiculous. It's
yeah.
absolutely ridiculous because that is a young squad, and Scott Parker should be turning around and saying, "Look, we've had a bad day today." A bit like, and you know, I know we don't like Southampton, but you know, Ralph Hasenhüttl
I was going
turned
to
around and
mention that actually because Hasenhuttl, I think was he the manager who they lost 8-0, 9-0 with as well, and they kept him.
they've
So,
they've lost 9-0 twice under him, but
yeah,
he's
they
come
kept
out
him.
and
Yeah,
he's turned round and he said, "Look, we've had a bad day," and then he's put it right. Scott Parker turned round and said, "We've had a bad day and we're expecting more. The squad aren't up to it," and that
I
is
remember reading
only
that and I was just like, yeah,
it's ridiculous. It's going to plummet the players'
the
confidence.
confidence. Yeah, yeah,
But Gary O'Neill has come straight in, got a draw against Wolves, then got a result from 2-0 down against Nottingham Forest to win 3-2. Um, he's picked those players off the canvas. Yes, I know we've lost the last two. I know that there's some Bournemouth fans saying, "Oh, Gary O'Neill's time's up at the club." No, I don't think it is. I don't think it is because personally, I think he has done a good job picking them up from where they were. But Scott Parker, do I think
good,
he's a good
bad,
manager?
future manager.
I I wouldn't go anywhere near him. I wouldn't go
Okay,
anywhere
okay.
near him.
All right, you heard it here first. So
Yeah.
Scott Parker, no for Tottenham.
No,
Okay.
well, at Fulham, you know, Fulham fans warned us about him.
Yeah,
The thing is, with them, what he did was Mitrovic. He
yeah,
didn't
he
play him
was.
at all.
Yeah, yeah,
He didn't play him, and you
yeah.
think if you've got a player like that in your squad, why aren't you A playing to his strengths and B, you know, using him? I can
If you
understand
look at
why
what Marco
Mitrovic was
Silva's done with
frustrated.
him, if you look
Uh,
at what Marco Silva's done with him, he's turned him
mm,
into like a monster this season.
he
Marco
is, yeah.
Silva, yeah.
You know, he was always there. He would have been able to do that under Scott Parker, but I just don't understand Scott Parker's mentality sometimes.
Because I think also a lot of Spurs fans saw, the documentary. You
Mm,
saw those halftime team talks. There's like a video of him giving a halftime team talk, and everyone on Twitter was going nuts. He's going to be brilliant manager because when Jose left.
mm,
I don't know if you know this. We went through like a ridiculous amount of days when it was 100 plus or something days without a manager. So obviously Twitter was just like, how about this manager? How about we even got lit with Gattuso, but
mm.
the Spurs fans like sort of started tweeting no to Gattuso, and the club didn't go ahead with it because of his like previous racial stuff and
Yeah,
stuff about women and stuff like that. We had Fonseca, but Parker was mooted as like a name at that point. And some people are like, oh, he'll be brilliant for us, future Spurs manager. But like for me, I'm the kind of person I like to see, say, even with like a player over like a longer period of time to see how they do, to make a judgment of whether he's like good enough to, for the club or
yeah,
good enough to go to as a manager. Because it's just for me, I thought Gerrard was going to be a very good manager, but now I'm questioning it because obviously Villa is falling apart. But because I thought he went the same way in terms of like he
Mm.
did the small job, then he's gone to Villa. That's like the next step. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh, maybe after that he'll go to like I don't know, like a different like Newcastle. I don't know, something like that, or maybe in like a Liverpool. But as in, he went through the right stages. With Lampard, he jumped from Derby to Chelsea, and I didn't think it was going to work because it's such a huge step up.
Yeah, completely agree
Yeah,
on that front.
yeah.
To be honest, I think
Were you surprised when he was
Rangers.
sacked? Then were you surprised when he was sacked or left?
What, Scott
Sorry.
Parker?
Yeah.
No, no, not at all, not at all, because he spoke out openly about the chairman and the lack
That
of
was it.
investment. And I was actually on Radio 5 Live coming home from that game, and my honest opinion at that point, and Robbie Savage and Chris Sutton was turning around and saying, "Well, he got you here." He said, and they were slamming me for it. They turned around, they
Oh my
said,
god.
"He's got you into the Premier
I really
League."
don't like Robbie Savage at all, personally.
No, I do question how much he knows, but that's a story for another day. But
Yeah.
those two turned around and said, "You don't know what you're talking about. He's got you here. Surely it's only respect to keep him going." And no, I personally thought at that point on the way home after hearing those comments, he can't keep his job. I thought he can't keep his job. Um, Even sat in the bar in Liverpool after the game, drowning our sorrows. Yeah, I straight away thought, no, there's no
Time to
hope.
sleep. Asian. He's in
Uh,
like Asia. Don't worry.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Because sometimes he comes on my channel, but it's like it's always like an afternoon show sort of thing, like
Yeah,
on a weekend he'll come on because obviously it's time difference. Yeah,
yeah, of course.
yeah, yeah. But in terms of Eddie Howe, I thought I'd just talk
Mhm.
about him quite briefly before we go into like in depth of the game and more about your players. Bournemouth ain't getting 60% of the ball like everyone else does. Well, it's Tottenham, we don't know. I mean, we've been giving
Well,
everyone else the ball the past few games. So, but so in terms of Eddie Howe, I actually watched a lot of Bournemouth when Eddie Howe was the manager because
yeah.
I thought you guys were very nice to watch,
Mhm.
and I enjoyed watching Bournemouth play during that time period. And you had a lot of players like Ryan Fraser. We were linked with him for a while.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We were linked with him.
You probably know the story about Ryan Fraser, do
Yeah,
you?
yeah.
Yeah.
But at the time, right, we were linked with him
Yeah.
because he was on a free and stuff as well. And then there was other players I can't remember off the top of my head. But Eddie Howe. So are you surprised at how well he's doing at Newcastle or not?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I knew he was going to do well. Um, I I was a little bit worried when he took that job because of the mess that Steve Bruce had left
Oh
him.
God, yeah, he left that
Um,
mess.
I thought he might have to fight to stay in the league, but if he drops down, try and get them back into the Premier League. Um, what he did was remarkable at Newcastle, and apart from Man City and Liverpool last season, they were the side, with the best record.
Mm.
It's up to between 2 points. Um, this season, I think they could push towards the Champions League places.
Honestly, I said that literally right after the game we played them. Oh, of course we lost, right? But from what I've seen of Newcastle this season, even previous, they have the players. They got like Bruno, Gamarish. I think it's quality. They've
Mhm.
got Isak, who's like a young striker, but he could turn out to be like a beast in a couple of years. Like they've got a settled side as well, and they're not in Europe, so it's not like they have that to worry about. So they could easily make a top four push this season. I think it's not completely out of the question.
I did a season preview with Harry Redknapp, and
Oh,
Harry Redknapp thought I was barking mad. So yeah, do check that out.
yeah.
It is 2.5 hours long, mine. So
All right. Oh no, it
you
doesn't surprise me. It's Harry, so.
you might want to watch it in stages. We have done an interview with him before as well.
Oh, Harry's
Um,
literally one of my favorite Spurs managers ever.
Oh, you'll
I
have to
love him.
watch our
I love
interview
him.
with Harry Redknapp. Watch both of them, albeit, if you watch them back to back, be prepared to be sat there for 4 hours straight. Um,
Maybe on like next week or something, I'll check it out.
yeah,
Yeah,
maybe the international break.
yeah, that's what I'm saying because I need to fill some time. So, yeah.
But
Do you mean the World
he
Cup? Oh, the World Cup's only in a few weeks, isn't it? Yeah.
it is, yeah. Harry thought I was barking mad when I said that Newcastle would finish third, and
It's not out of
to
the
be fair,
question.
no, it's not. He actually offered a bet to me on it,
Oh, that
but
sounds like Harry.
yeah, I did choose not to go with it because I did think, well, Harry Redknapp knows a bit more than I do, but I'm starting to think now that maybe I should have gone for it, but
Did he
yeah.
say outside the top six or something?
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, he thought it would be around about seventh, eighth, but not third. But I think that they've got an outstanding chance.
Now
The
that
good
Newcastle's
thing,
drop off, United, we don't know what's going to happen with them. Liverpool's
mm,
drop off, and then you have obviously Arsenal are sort of in the mix. Of course, we're in the mix, but we're in because
mm.
obviously we lost our last 2 games back to back. He's seen at my local ground now. Harry Redknapp, he's talking about. Yeah, yeah, because Harry, he goes to the different matches and watches games all the time.
Yeah,
He's a very big football person. Yeah,
he's always at
and
Dean Court,
yeah,
and I know Harry quite well, and he's an absolutely lovely guy.
all
He's just
right.
a gentleman, and um, he's got tons and tons and tons of stories
Stories.
that
Yeah, I know.
he could share with you. Um,
I mean,
but
like, obviously he's a Spurs. I was asked about Spurs stuff. I'm sure he'll tell me something quite funny about like Ryan van der Vaart or something, or Sandro or
oh
something like
yeah,
that.
without a shadow of a
Yeah.
doubt, mate. Without a shadow of a doubt, he'll have a story. He'll have a story for every single club, every single
He's always been like
scenario.
that. I've watched him on like just normal football shows, and he just talks. If you ask him a question about football, he'll go on for like an hour just talking.
Well, I'll give one bit away from our interview with him.
Yeah.
I asked him about Di Canio when Di
Oh, that
Canio
you asked him about
picked
that.
up
That yeah, yeah,
that
yes,
ball against
yes.
Everton. Now, nobody, I believe, has asked him that question before,
Really? Oh.
and I said, "What did you make of it?" And he said, "I wanted to kill him." He said, "All the Everton fans thought he was brilliant. The club even was saying that gave him like a sporting award or something like that." But Harry said, Redknapp said, "I wanted to kill him because I wanted to win the game."
Because apparently I watched another interview about that as well. Was it that we're talking about when he was at West Ham, Di Canio?
Yeah.
And he was really an impression of Di Canio saying, "I don't want to carry on" or something like this. And he just like, yeah, it was brilliant, honestly. Like Harry, the thing with Harry is I think he'll just talk to anyone about football. From
Oh
what
yeah.
I've seen of him, he just loves talking about football. Because sometimes he's on like the transfer shows on Sky Sports.
Mhm.
Or like because I prefer him a lot more to Jamie personally, but anyway,
Oh yeah.
I've met Jamie Redknapp twice
Yeah.
actually outside Tottenham when Redknapp was the manager. I saw
Mhm.
Jamie twice. I've got a picture with him on Facebook. It's obviously years ago.
But
But
Harry's
Harry
an
Redknapp
absolute
was
gent.
just I just loved him as a manager. he was
Yeah.
very honest. Like he would just say something. Oh yeah, he's a Chelsea fan by the way. I know he's saying
Yeah.
yeah. So how do you think Gary O'Neill will approach the game on Saturday? Will you guys sit back or will you guys try and press us quite high? Because I don't know if you know, but our defense isn't exactly the best. So and we try and play out the back. Like what tactics is Gary O'Neill using in general now?
What we're normally doing is a 4-5-1 formation. So that consists of Neto in goal. Of course, he won't be in goal against Spurs. The centre back pairing of Senesi and Metham, with Adam Smith on the left, Ryan Fredericks on the right, and then you've got in the centre, you've got Lerma Billin and Lewis Cook. Left hand side, you've got Tavernier. Right hand side,
Yeah,
you've got
Tavernier's good.
Ryan Christie. And then you've got Solanke up front now. Hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll be fit to play this game
I
because
was gonna. He's your most important player, isn't he? Well, one of the
he
most
is
important players. Yeah, yeah,
he is, and he pulled up
yeah.
injured against West Ham. So I think the backup to Solanke is either Jamal Lowe, who hasn't really played much at all, or Kiefer Moore. Now the thing is, Kiefer Moore is a good player. He is a
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
he's out he's an outstanding player from situations in the air, situations where he's got time, but he's not fast. He doesn't pull things back. He's a target man. We don't play like that. Um, I think what we'll do is we'll try and keep it tight. Um, I would like, and this isn't what I think Gary O'Neill would
Mm,
do, but I would like Jamal Lowe up front. Not because Jamal Lowe is, a better player than Kiefer Moore. Probably he's got the less quality, but because
mm.
he can run, he can do things, he can make things happen. You know, he is what I would say a championship player, but at the same time, I don't think we play to Kiefer Moore's strengths. And I think we'll keep it quite tight, considering what we've done in the previous games, which is sit back, allow the top six to come at us. Against Man City, we gave it a little bit of a go, but against Arsenal, we just sat back. As soon as we started to push them a little bit,
It
the
started.
game,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
the game evened up to an extent. Against Liverpool, we just sat back all game and look what happened. So yeah, I
But
think
would you
that's
say
what.
Bournemouth strengths? Because I've always thought of Bournemouth as an attacking side. I know it sounds strange because obviously you guys are fighting relegation, but as in, because I don't expect you
Hmm,
guys when I watch Bournemouth play in general, because I've obviously seen you guys over the years to just sit back in a match. It just doesn't seem right.
no, and to be honest, it doesn't sit right with us either. Um, it That was an Eddie Howe tactic. Eddie Howe's mantra was, "We'll score more goals than
Yeah,
you."
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, as shown through some crazy games in the Premier League. We beat Hull 6-1. I know it's Hull, but of course we had the 3-0 against Everton.
Oh yeah, I
Liverpool
remember
scored
that. Yeah.
3. Um, there's other games as well that will jump out. And West Ham 4-3. That was our first game in the Premier League. Um, so there's a lot of. He was always attacking,
So
always
both
on the
teams will
front.
be sat back. Yeah, because Tottenham, we just sit back nowadays. So
Yeah, I I think with Gary, well, it wasn't so much Gary O'Neill. Of course, Jason Tyndall took over from Eddie Howe when we were in the
Mm,
Championship, and he started off really well. I think Jason Tyndall's issue was, of course, he's Eddie's number 2 at Newcastle now as well. Jason Tyndall is a coach. He's not a manager. He isn't a manager, unfortunately. And when changes needed to be made,
you didn't do that.
I think he panics a little bit. We got beat 2 very poor games against a poor Sheffield Wednesday side. We got beat 2-1 by them. He made 3 substitutions. None of the substitutions made any sense whatsoever. And then, but the week before that, we got beat by Reading 3-1. And to be fair, Reading were flying high at that point. But again, it was just so poor. And then, of course, he made 3 substitutions that game, and we was thinking, what's he actually doing? So I think he panicked. He
Mm.
was playing like Eddie did, though.
Trying to play like the open style, yeah.
Yeah.
Because most fans, not fans, most like teams of like clubs like
Hmm.
Tottenham or whatever, we expect teams of the lower end of the table to come and just sit.
Yeah.
It, that's always my expectation. So I don't know why people complain when, let's say, someone like Bournemouth or like a team who is like behind us in the table comes to Tottenham and sits back, because it's not. It's like they're playing for a point.
Yeah.
because obviously the point for them is like a big thing. For us, point is like a drop point. We need 3 points at home to someone like Bournemouth or something like that. But it was very surprising to me when Bournemouth came up the first time, and they were playing this very open style, which is obviously why I watched them more, because obviously there's loads of goals. It wasn't fun to watch, right? Yeah, I think the only other team I remember playing like that was Swansea. I think when they were up as well for a period,
Swansea
they were
always
very open.
Yeah.
But would you say you guys still playing this open style even now under Gary O'Neill or not?
I think it's opened up a little
Even for
bit
like
more.
a lesser extent.
Yeah, it's definitely a lesser extent. It's opened up a bit more, and the reason why it changed was after Jason Tindall was sacked. We brought in Jonathan Woodgate, and he did go more defensively.
Another ex-Spurs, yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, Woodgate,
yeah.
Did fairly well. We did blow a little bit hot and cold towards the end of the season. We got beat by Wickham, of all teams.
Oh god, we had a good game against them once in the cup. It was like 4-3 at White Hart Lane. Yeah.
But we should be beating teams like that. Got into the playoffs, and looked like we was going through. Was 2-0 up on accurate against Brentford, and then Metham did something very, very stupid and ended up getting beat 3-1 on the day, and then of course 3-2 over the 2 legs. And then Scott Parker coming. I don't know. I think Scott Parker was always their favourite. Once Eddie left the club, he was always their favourite. But because of what had happened with Fulham and getting promoted, I think that's why they held off, and that Scott Parker did play a lot more defensive. We have opened up under Gary O'Neill, and things are a little bit more fluid. The main issue, though, is that defensively, are we all? I don't think we're really strong enough defensively. I think Senesi does some silly things. I think Metham, has done really well this season, but he's not, the strongest of centre backs. I think Gary O'Neill's done enough to get the job, though.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, that was my next question. Do you think you guys are still looking for a manager, or do you think they'll give him the permanent job?
I would hope that they would give him the job. Will they give him the job? I think it all depends on Bill Foley. And I think that's why it's all been delayed.
Right. Okay.
Of course, Scott Parker was sacked at the end of August. We're now at the end of October, and he's still in place. I think what will happen is it will change during the World Cup, and there's a couple of
decision
managers.
then, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of managers that have been mentioned. One is the Bodo Glimt manager, Knutson.
Not Knutson?
Yeah. Kyle Knutson? I think so, yeah.
Did you say it? Okay.
But my question with regards to that is managing in, I think it's Norway, isn't it? I think Bodo Glimt, if I'm right in thinking, I do apologise.
Yeah,
Bodo Glimt is Norway.
Yeah.
Managing there, managing the Premier League is a different thing.
But you do say that, but was it Graham Potter managed in? Is it Graham Potter who managed in Norway?
He did.
Or am I wrong?
Sweden, I think.
It was one of those kind of countries. I can't remember. Sorry. And then Roy Hodgson had a spell there as well. I remember.
Yeah, he did. I'm going to just find out actually for you. Because I think Graham Potter was Sweden. And just have a quick look. Yeah, he was at Östersund, which is a Swedish league team, I believe. Yeah, it's a Swedish team. Bodo Glimt, though, is Norwegian. To be honest, he's done very well there. But like we said, it is a completely different setup, to the Norwegian league. It's completely different. It's like Gerrard when he went from Scotland, which, let's be fair, isn't particularly a strong league.
No.
I know some Scottish fans might be watching this and think, "Oh well, Scotland's a great league." It's not. It really isn't.
Celtic and Rangers, and that's about it. Really,
poor league full of I think, is it 12 clubs that are in the SPL now?
Yeah, it gets smaller and smaller each year. I don't know why, but
I would say, and I'm going to really upset them now,
I don't
Celtic
think they'd
and
watch this. So.
Rangers.
Yeah,
Celtic and
yeah.
Rangers are championship clubs. You've
Mm.
got Aberdeen, and I think Hearts are doing well.
Yeah, Hearts. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're probably League One clubs. The rest of them, well, League Two, National League. I think Um, I watched one game a couple of weeks back. I think it was Ross County,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
Ross
thought
County.
this is rubbish. And that is the difference of the leagues. I could
The
go,
quality is just not there, is it? No.
I could be a Rangers or a Celtic manager and finish either first or second. Um, hey, if Stephen Gerrard went to Ross County and won the Scottish Premier League,
It's different, I guess. It's
I can
different.
understand that.
Yeah,
I would
yeah.
say, right, okay, there's
Hats
somebody
off.
there.
Yeah, yeah,
Hats off. But
yeah,
yeah, no, it's just such a poor league that
yeah.
there's no. Um,
Because there's always been that whole thinking of, oh yeah, Celtic and Rangers should join the Premier League, but like if they join and they get relegated, like what was they going to say
which
about?
they will. I think
Yeah,
they will.
yeah,
I think they
yeah.
definitely would do. Um,
So just to close off the stream, so the end.
yeah,
What's your match prediction for Saturday?
I would. The heart says 1-1. The
Mm,
head says. The head says probably 3-1 Spurs. I'm going to be
really?
perfectly honest. A point. We'd love a point. If we can get all three, absolutely amazing. But I think Spurs probably got too much. And the games we are now looking at as Bournemouth fans are, and we've got two big games coming up, to be fair. Um, we have got Leeds away, which I think is a winnable game. I don't think Leeds are particularly very good at all.
Mm.
I think they're really in trouble. I'm hoping Jesse Marsh remains in charge because I don't rate
Yeah.
him whatsoever.
Ted
Um,
Lasso. People joke about him, like Ted Lasso. Have you watched that?
yeah, I just
Yeah.
I just think Leeds are poor. I think they're poor. I think they will finish in the bottom three. And then we've got Everton, who have picked up some results
Mm.
recently. We'll say that about them. The annoying thing about that game is we've got them in the cup a couple of days beforehand.
Oh my God!
So
Really? Oh.
what's going to happen is, rather than a big long journey from Liverpool for a Premier League game, they're already going to be down here.
So they
They're
might
going
as
to
well
be
just stay.
Yeah, they're going to be staying down here, and that's really annoying because, let's be fair, a long old trip from Liverpool, it's going to put them a little bit out of sync, and hopefully,
Wait, they
you
bought?
know,
Are they both? Is it Bournemouth at home for both games
yeah,
in the cup
yeah,
and the? So we got
yeah,
that's in 2 weeks, like, ish, isn't it? Because we've got
yeah,
Forest in the cup in 2 weeks. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that's frustrating. But again, it's a game that we could get something out of.
Especially at
It depends.
home. I mean,
Yeah, it
yeah.
depends what Everton's side turn up. Really, they're probably one of the strangest teams in the Premier League at the moment because they seem to put in decent performances against the teams that they shouldn't be getting results against, and then look absolutely terrible against teams where you think, well, they should get something there. I'm just hoping that trend continues, and we can give them a decent beating at Dean Court, because I think somebody needs to be beaten by 2-3 goals,
All
and
right. That's what I'm hoping
just
for with Tottenham because we haven't been a team by two or three, like 3 goals this season at all. Like it's always, even when we were 3-1 up against Frankfurt the other week, they had 10 men and they scored a
yeah.
goal. It was 3-2 and we are like hanging on at the end. It was just great. It was mental.
Oh, please don't do it to us, because the thing is we have got the joint poorest goal difference in the league alongside Nottingham Forest. So yeah, we need to do something
pick
about
it
that.
up.
Just,
Pick it
yeah,
up.
and I think those two games are both winnable. If we can get 6 points from them, then I think we could be going into the World Cup happy. Get 0 from these next 3. Even if we got through to the next round of the cup, which we don't really care much about this season, we'd be a little bit concerned. But yeah.
So me as a Spurs fan, I think like my heart says we'll win 2-0, but my head says we'll probably draw or something because we're just not playing well at all this season. I mean, I'll tell you more tomorrow, but
Yeah.
but it's just the comment Mark made about so both teams will be sat back. It's because even against smaller sides this season, we've just sat back. We've not really taken the game to them, and for some reason, Tottenham, we need to concede a goal to wake up. Like last night, we had to concede to wake up and suddenly be proactive and start not necessarily attacking the other team, but just actually playing football.
Yeah.
But we seem to be like we start the game and we're just like waiting. It's not like we're waiting for something to happen. I don't know what we're waiting for to happen, but and then finally we concede a goal. They're like, "Oh no, we have to start playing now because if we don't, we're not going to get anything from the game." So, where can we find you? And do you want to plug your channel as well? I hope I wrote it correctly. In the,
yeah, that's fine.
AFC Bournemouth fan channel. Yeah.
So the channel is called UTCIAD. It stands for Up the Cherries in All Departments. So you can find us on YouTube. We've got loads of player interviews, not just Bournemouth players. We've had Carlton Palmer on recently as well. We had David Beckham's agent. Of course, we've had Harry Redknapp, Steve Cook, Steve Fletcher, you name it. There's quite a lot of big names there. But we also do cherry picking, which is a show that we do each week, and loads of other content. We recently had Mark Housey on because if any Tottenham fans saw the game against West Ham, we're a bit robbed.
This is correct. Let me just put it in the chat. Yeah, there's AFC Bournemouth fan channel. UTCIAD, AFC.
Yeah,
is that one? Yeah, okay.
That's the one.
I'll put it in the chat. Okay.
But yeah, I don't know if you saw that game against West Ham. That's the biggest nightmare for us.
Oh, I don't know. I don't see that game. No, sorry.
No. The 2 VAR decisions, both handball. One.
We had
West
one
Ham
last night, so
yeah,
a bit offside.
VAR is a pain in the ass.
Honestly, we thought we won the game in the last minute, and then we all celebrating, going nuts. Kane was celebrating because he scored the goal, and then they went straight to VAR, and I was like, "Oh no, here we go." And then when we left the game because it was literally almost the last kick of the game.
Yeah,
we just cussing out the referee when we left. I was just shouting so much abuse to the ref when I was leaving the game.
But yeah, come find us on YouTube. We're on Twitter, Instagram, all that. So yeah, come find us and say hello.
Yeah, and normally I would say Common You Spurs in the stream, but go check out his channel as well too. So